I hope everybody's safe and comfortable with all this snow. And hopefully everybody will make their trek to the arena for 2 o'clock versus basketball today. Support Coach Martin, our Tigers. Very excited the way we finished off our class. It's a tribute to all of our director of player personnel, our recruiting specialists, our on campus to pull this class together. Not only the 2 high school players that we were able to sign, but also the number of transfers that we were able to add to our roster. Got some exciting news this morning with Curtis Piegler, offensive lineman from Demopolis, Alabama, who we hosted over this weekend, committing and signing with us today. Felt like we did a really nice job of evaluating that and kind of playing coy a little bit with not really unveiling our intentions too soon, getting him up here on a visit, and then keeping it quiet that we had offered him over the weekend just to make sure that nobody came in late. Carmichael Glass, another prospect that we did a nice job, I felt like, of recruiting, but evaluating and digging in, talking to high school coaches, doing the old-fashioned approach, making sure we gathered all the information. And it's really excited for him to join our roster and our team. And I guess really that's, all I have as far as new additions. Oh, well, actually didn't get a chance in my previous press conference. DJ Wesselock signed and committed a local player from Boonville, Missouri. Really excited about his potential and really felt like him and Miss Marley really made the best decision for them in coming to Mizzou. Obviously we weren't even in his top 15 the first time he released it. So for our staff to really make up the ground and difference there to get him to join the Tigers and be a part of the best class in school history up until now was really exciting. And that's really it for the high school players. We don't anticipate any more high school signees. We obviously did a nice job in the transfer portal and replacing some players who, may have moved on for whatever reasons, allowed other players opportunities to play here. And so we have, quite a few new additions. And I'm just going to go through those guys individually, starting with Joseph Charleston, a young man that we recruited throughout the first signing period. Got a commitment in really late December. Excited about the versatility that he brings at the DB position and the safety position. Obviously, Tyrone Harper, a defensive end from Roswell, Georgia, that came to us by way of North Carolina. Again, a position that we felt like with the loss of a couple of players, we really needed to add some depth there. Jayden Jernigan, a defensive lineman from the state of Texas by way of Oklahoma State, actually had a very good bowl game in their bowl game and played really well. And obviously with the loss of some of our defensive tackles, needed some help in the interior. We're able to add him. Drayden Norwood, a defensive back that we had recruited from Fort Smith, Arkansas, and were one of his finalists before he picked Texas A&M. Wanted to transfer, and again, another position where we lose two players with a Caleb and Allie moving on, and then a loss of a transfer. Really felt like we needed some help there. Nathaniel Pete, running back from Stanford, who was originally played at Rockbridge. Excited. Obviously, needed to add some versatility and some help there. And his speed and his familiarity with us and in our area was exciting. Bency Polgar, center from Buffalo. What a great story. First generation transfer from Hungary. Parents living in Myrtle Beach, and just got a great story. Really excited to add him to our team. Obviously got a need there with Mike Mayetti leaving. And so to be able to add somebody to the competition was important for us. Welcome back, Dylan Spencer. Dylan Spencer originally signed with me and us in our first signing class, transferred to Jackson State, and then decided he would like to come back. And, just really took into account all the different things that had happened in his first freshman year, COVID, and all the different ways that can affect somebody, and felt like, he needed a second opportunity. And for him to want to come back was huge. Him and Coach Johnson, myself met. We really feel like he's matured and humble and ready for this opportunity. Ian Matthews, a defensive lineman that we signed, a transfer from Auburn, will be in classes this week. And so really felt like we needed some help there at the defensive line to continue to add depth. Look forward to him joining in with Marquise. Sorry, I was looking for something else there. Really helped. So anyway, excited about him and what he will bring. Obviously, when you have Marquise, Jayden Jernigan, Ian Matthews, and Jalen Marshall, now you feel pretty good about the depth on the inside of your defensive line. Then Tyler Stevens, again, a position in need as we've lost 3 players to the transfer portal at the tight end position. Really felt like his length, athleticism at the tight end position will be really exciting and helpful for us. Whew, that's a lot. So I guess with that, are we opening up for questions there? Or do I need to go on?
Yeah,
keep going
no,
on coaching staff?
That is everyone. Sorry, our second hopper, Tyrone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, never mind. A guy that had, I think 15 tackles, a sack, and 4 TFLs against us. Could not forget him. Tyrone Hopper, just a tremendous player. Something that just happened really quickly, and really excited to add a player like that at the linebacker position, somebody who we really think can come in and help and contribute immediately and compete at a high level and help our defense. So there we go. Now we'll open up.
Now we got them all, and we'll start with questions. If you could use the raise hand function, and we'll start with Dave Matter. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, Eli, with I guess most of these transfers, were you looking for immediate impact players that you can plug right in and fill needs of guys that left either by the portal or graduated, or how were you addressing the portal this time around for this cycle?
Yeah, it was really both, honestly, Dave, because every situation's a little bit different. Every position's a little bit different. Like you had some that you really needed immediate help, like at the tight end position. And so bringing somebody like Tyler Stevens, instead of signing another high school player, we felt like we had enough youth and competition there with Gavin, Ryan, and Max, but we needed somebody with some playing experience. And so we really wanted to go with somebody more that could fill an immediate need. Ian Matthews is a guy who's got great potential and has got to continue to develop, and he's going to have an opportunity to play, but we're not expecting him to come in immediately and just become a day one starter. That was a portal transfer. Same thing with Drayden Norwood. It's a guy who has the opportunity to really come in and compete for an open position, but him being young and being able to add quality competition to a position that has some openings there. So it was really kind of both in all of those things. It wasn't a one size fits all. We weren't just looking for grad transfers or 1 year guys. We were looking for at each position kind of holistically.
We'll go to Lila Bromberg.
Hey, Eli, I hope you're doing well. With, a lot of the, transfers you were able to add on the defensive side of a ball and just on both sides of the ball for the transfer portal and the trenches, just how do you think that kind of helps you being able to get, guys like that have, bad experience as opposed to filling, those spots of high school players? What kind of advantage does that give you, and what was your approach with that?
Well, we really wanted to do both, right? We really wanted to add both a good foundational base of high school players who can come in and develop and grow and become great players for us, but also make sure that our roster wasn't just heavy on one side or the other. We didn't want to be too young, and we don't want to be too old. We don't want to have to continually repeat the cycle of signing a bunch of transfers or high school players. And so, how are they going to help us? Is the only thing better than a little competition is a lot of competition. And so what we're able to do is create a competition here where we have 85 scholarship players who can all compete for the job in this new day and age where everybody's going to have to be able to compete at have a fair shake at the competition.
We'll go to Ben Arnett.
Eli, with the Hopper cousins playing together, was that something that you knew they wanted to do, or was that something that came up through recruiting and you guys maybe presented to them?
No, that was something, we recruited Tyrone Hopper on his own, strictly for him as the defensive end, and that was it. Once he was here and had had a week under his belt, heard that his cousin was going to go in the portal. And once he went in the portal, then we made a move and let him know that we would be very excited and have an opportunity for him to come up here and potentially have a scholarship and play together. And got him on an official visit rather quickly. Had kind of learned through the process of trial and error that if you ain't first, you're last in the transfer portal business. And so wanted to make sure that we were one of the first to get him and really built a quick relationship. And I think obviously having a relationship with his cousin helped us quite a bit. But boy, we knew he was a good player.
Gabe DeArmond.
Yeah, Eli, kind of two things on the transfers. You said you don't want to repeat maybe signing this many. Do you view this as a way to kind of quickly rebuild the roster and you think numbers will go down in the future, or is like 10 transfers pretty normal maybe going forward?
I wish I knew, honestly, Gabe. I don't think anybody knows. I think it's always going to be a reactionary process. You may, some years you may have more transfers than others. I don't know that at the end of the day, here's the reality. You recruit 85 players. 85 scholarship players on your football team are starters. And they were probably the best player on their high school football team. And then they all come here and there's only 22 starters. And so there's going to be that natural tension of, do I stay and continue to work and grind knowing that my opportunity may or may not come, or do I maybe, change and find opportunity elsewhere? I think it's always going to be a year-to-year thing figuring that out. And I do applaud the oversight committee for allowing us the flexibility to sign 33 instead of just the traditional 25, to make sure that we have our 85 guys on a roster, 85 scholarship players on a roster. And so that was definitely helpful. But I don't know how it'll go in the future. But we're ready in either case.
We'll go with Jack Zobel.
Sorry. Hey, Eli, you mentioned this a little bit, but Dylan Spencer coming back after he transferred to Jackson State last year. What were some of those conversations with him about coming back like, and what's he going to bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, it just started with, tell us why you left and why you want to come back. And did we believe those responses were both genuine? I think for me, understanding these young men are 18 and 22-year-old, they were going, Dylan went through a global pandemic, lost some people that were close to him, and felt like getting home was really important to him. And then when he was home, realized, maybe staying here and going, playing in the SEC and playing for us was what he really wanted to do. And so, having those conversations, seeing if he was in shape, seeing if he was still the type of player that we believed he was, a player who played a lot in the Kentucky game, started in the Florida game, and was pretty valuable to us. He's going to have to start at the bottom, work his way to the top. I think he provides position flexibility. He's a big, strong, physical young man who can play both guard and tackle. But I think the biggest thing for me in this situation was having empathy and understanding that, that global pandemic is no joke. So,
Benjamin Hockman.
Hey, Coach, two questions for you. One on Tyrone Hopper specifically. Can you describe his ability as a linebacker? What entices you? What excites you?
He's a long, physical downhill player who can really read and react and dissect the defense and play down, or offensive play and play downhill. For me, it was just quite simply watching him against us and deciding, I hadn't seen a lot of players play that fast against us, except for a guy who plays for the Chiefs on Sundays right now. And I'm not trying to make that comparison, but he is a long, physical linebacker who can really run and plays at a high level.
And at the previous press conference you held in December, you kept saying a great quote about adapt or die in an NIL world. Can you kind of share some insight of how your staff, Mizzou, has adapted in recent months?
Well, I think I mean, I think it just shows with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, maybe 15 players in this second class that have been on campus, whether it starts with transfers. I mean, you know, normally you got to think in a post or in a pre-transfer portal world, we would only added high school players, and you're talking about with transfers, your team's going to be really young, and well, you don't know. But now with the portal, used correctly, vetted right, you're able to add to your roster and try to strengthen your roster and strengthen the competition. It doesn't take away from player development. I mean, I'm still really excited about what Kyron Montgomery and John Jones's future is for us, but they've been injured. And, even as Zaquan Reeves, who got injured here, those guys still have an opportunity to develop and, show us what they got. But we also are able to use the transfer portal with Drayden Norwood and Ian and Jayden Jernigan to provide that competition and strengthen our football team.
Greg Palermo.
Coach, and I'm just curious, you still, I think, have room on your roster. So what are your plans for the portal kind of as you head into the rest of the winter here and then spring ball and after that?
Yeah. So the NCAA allows you to sign up to 33 players within the cycle. I think after today we'll have signed 27. Or it's 32. It's 32 players. We'll have signed 26, and so we have the potential to sign 6 more if needed. Not sure. Just have them in the back pocket, so to speak. But for us, our attention really after today turns to spring football and the competition that we're going to have there. And we'll make some more decisions based off the transfer portal coming out of spring football and kind of seeing where we're at.
And then real quick,
ahead,
also Nico Hay needing to medically retire. Wondering if you can speak to that and what he's done for your program.
Yeah, wish Nico all the best. It was unfortunate, but just, for him and his future and his family's future, for him to get his degree from the University of Missouri is going to be something that's important to them. And then, was a solid contributor to our football team. And our don't beat Florida without him on that big catch this season. So it definitely had some big time moments here at Faurot Field and some big time catches throughout his career here for us, and wish him all the best moving forward.
Mitchell Forty.
Eli, you mentioned Jayden Jernigan a couple of times, a guy who played quite a bit on a run defense that was really successful last season. What can he bring to the defensive line?
Well, we've got a couple of positions that are open with losing a couple of those COVID seniors and then having some attrition due to the portal. So obviously Jayden has an opportunity to play. Obviously we've got some other guys in that room who can also help contribute and create that competition. But he's a guy who obviously has played. I think he's played in 27 games and has played a significant amount, really has natural pass rush ability, does a great job of shocking and shedding blocks and tracking the ball down in the run game. And so excited about what his potential is and look forward to him creating competition within our room.
Dave Matter.
Eli, with bringing in Nathaniel Pete, how do you kind of look at running back situation? I know a year ago this time you said maybe a committee approach, and then obviously it wasn't a committee approach. It was all Tyler. Yeah. How do you look at that group right now?
I think that group has again, trying to create competition. Last year we weren't sure. We knew Tyler was a great player, but we didn't know how good of a player he was or how elite of a player he was. And so I think it's the same thing here. We wanted to add enough ingredients into the mix and see, as they say, the cream will rise to the top. A guy who's, who added to our team, Cody Schrader, who was a Division II rushing leader from the St. Louis area, is another guy to add into the mix along with Michael Cox and Nathaniel Pete and BJ and Elijah Young. And so Molly, we open that up. So we have a lot of guys. And you know what? It's going to allow us this spring to really create the competition that we need in play. and allow guys to really show us what they have.
Go ahead, Lila Bromberg.
When you're, adding this many new players and kind of, this period where they've just enrolled before spring practice, what is kind of your approach and your guys' approach as a program to, build that, chemistry, get everyone kind of, adapted to, the culture you want to build and standard you have?
Well, it really starts in the weight room. And Coach Russell has done a really good job. We have, they're getting acclimated to what we're asking them to do and how we do things around here. And that again starts in the weight room, and they're in that. And then obviously on Wednesdays we have team meetings and in things that'll help us. We're in the middle of football school this week, which is this week's all about developing the self-made habits of skills and drills that can help these guys that they can do on their own for the next 9 months to really enhance their ability to perform. Next week will be football intelligence, football FBI, and then the last weekend will be scheme as we get into spring football, which is where you'll really build that chemistry and camaraderie. So it starts in the weight room with Coach Russ and then moves on from there.
Chris Kwinsinski. Sorry, I botched that.
It's all good. Hey, Eli, I was just curious. I know you touched, or you mentioned it a little bit earlier about Nick Bolton as someone playing in the pros. I just wanted to ask, as a guy that started this year as a rookie and really made his headway on a Super Bowl contender, I was just kind of curious, why do you think he was so successful this season?
Well, I mean, Nick just has all the characteristics of a great football player. We always, in our program, we talk about the separation is in the preparation. Nick was tremendous at preparing and watching tape and making sure he always had his body and his mind right, ready physically to perform at a high level. And I think that carried over to the NFL.
Mike Reeves.
Eli, in general, I don't know if you even characterize it this way, but did this class that you have, did it meet expectations, exceed expectations that you may have had going in? Is there a way to answer that?
Well, for us, core value number one is always compete to do it better than it's been done before. And so for us to sign, the best class in school history, I think was just living by our core values. The challenge that I had for our staff yesterday was now we've got to recruit better than that this year. The only way for us to continue to close the gap with the upper echelon in this conference is to stack these classes on top of each other. We're making some headway in the previous two classes, but we need 3 and 4 and 5 of those classes. I mean, there was an article talking about Georgia and their national championship and how much they've invested in recruiting over the last 5 years and what the recruiting rankings were over the last 5 years that allowed them to win the national championship and break through. I think for us, that's the approach that I'm trying to take, is that nobody's patting themselves on the back. It was an opportunity for us to compete and show what we have. But in order for us to continue success, we're going to have to sustain that momentum and really do it better than it's ever been done before in the next one.
Benjamin Hockman.
Coach, I just wanted to ask just in general about the grooming quarterbacks during the off season. How can someone catch your eye and work their way up the depth chart when there's not football being played in the off season?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is a competition. Whether you're throwing the football or whether you're leading in the locker room or leading in the classroom, demonstrating leadership, demonstrating preparation, your understanding to watch tape. Football is a game that you spend countless hours and hours and hours, but the actual game time is about 6 minutes. And so to understand that the preparation, the outside work that you need to put in is so important. I think that's the thing that I'm so excited about with this competition is Brady and Tyler really embrace that process. And I know Sam is already itching, has already got a playbook and is trying to learn that on his own. It'll be a little bit tougher without him being here until the summer, but it is going to be a fun competition. All of these guys are ultra talented, ultra competitive, but they're ultra team first guys. And so it's going to be a lot of fun and I look forward to seeing, who really takes the reins of this thing.
Gabe DeArmond.
Along the same lines, Eli, when Connor left, given relative inexperience there, I know you've talked a lot about the difference of recruiting quarterback versus any other position. Was a transfer at that position anything you entertained at all, would entertain this spring, and just kind of why or why not?
We'll always reserve the flexibility to do what we think is in the best interest to win. And I've had this discussion with our team so that there's no misunderstandings. Like, our goal is to win. And as long as we all understand and share in that value, we're going to have an opportunity to be successful. It's not about protecting anybody's feelings. It's not about protecting anybody's roster spots. It's about what do we need to do in order to win the SEC East. That's what we all came to do. So if in our evaluation we feel like we need to take another quarterback to provide either depth or provide competition, then we reserve the right to do that. As of right now, we didn't find one that fit. There wasn't somebody that was in the portal that we felt like was, or they didn't think we were the fit. Either way, it really doesn't matter. It just, at this point, it has not been a fit. But if we get to the point where we feel like there is one, then we reserve the right, whether it's at linebacker, quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end, DB, anywhere. Our allegiance is to this university to win. And if we feel like somebody can help us do that, we're going to add them.
Ben Arnett.
Eli, you mentioned competition several times. Is that kind of the main idea in recruiting now, as you're kind of in this new world of the portal and also trying to develop? Is that a big part of the pitch, is come here and compete?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you look at the great ones, they're competitors, right? And we forget that you know, so much of, well, am I going to get to play? Man, you know how you're going to get to play? Give us the best chance to win. Give us the best chance to win. And it's not about people's feelings. It's about giving our team the best chance to win. And who does that? How do they do that? You know, I think too many times competition feels like it's me versus you. The competition for us actually is to strive together. Iron sharpens iron. Okay, so how do we as a team sharpen each other? Do we challenge each other to be better? You know, I've seen several tweets on from our players, you know, really engaging in that process, going to hot yoga, throwing routes on air, doing things on their own where they're challenging each other to compete, and who's going to compete more. And so I think it's a great thing. I think it's for me personally, it's just showing that our culture is really taking root. And really for the first 2 years, you know, we had a lot of guys that had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, so to speak. But I think we're starting to see the foundation of this thing where everybody is buying in, because people have had the freedom that if this wasn't the right fit for them, they had the opportunity to go elsewhere. But the majority of this roster has been recruited and chose to be here, and the ones that have stayed have chose to be here. And so I think you're really starting to see that competition strive together, coming together.
We'll take a final personnel question from Mitchell 40, and then we'll move on to the new staff. Go ahead, Mitchell.
I'm already ready to move on to the new staff. That was my plan. So I got kind
Mitchell's
of
taking over.
Does anybody else have
anyone final personnel? Go ahead, Dave, if you have personnel. All right. So, Coach, if you want to go to our on-field coaches, our 3 new on-field coaches, and then we'll take some questions on that.
Yeah, I think it just starts first for me and self-reflecting at the end of the season after just, you know, the way the season ended and looking back and just evaluating where we're at. I do want to state that I'm very proud of over the past 2 years qualifying for back-to-back bowl games. I think there's only been 2 other head coaches in their one other head coach in the start of their career at Mizzou to be able to do that in their first 2 seasons. So I do think there are some things, some positive things that are really going on in our program. And not only that, but the development of our recruiting class, the development of our players, the developing schemes that we have. So I think there's a lot of positives, but when I look back, my job is not to pat myself on the back. It's to look critically through a lens that says, how do we improve? And you specifically, Eli, what are you going to do to make sure that this team's moving forward in the right direction? On the offensive side of the ball, I felt like our quarterback play was pretty good early, but our team was not functioning as a unit very well. And so I stepped away from the quarterbacks and spent more time on the team. And then our quarterback play fell off late in the year. And so just looking at that, felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job coaching the quarterbacks and handling the team responsibilities. And so felt like with Coach Woods moving, it was an opportunity for me to look back and say, how can I restructure the staff? Really know that Eric Link is one of our best teachers and coaches, does a tremendous job, at coached tight ends before, wanted to get more value, get him into more people on our team. And so was able to take him from just a special teams coordinator role to put him as the tight ends coach. And then that allowed me to say, okay, what's best? Coach Hamden is a tremendous quarterbacks coach, probably a more naturals quarterbacks coach than he is a wide receivers coach. Spent time at Washington developing quarterbacks. There was an NFL quarterbacks coach with the Atlanta Falcons, and just so felt like I can move him into that position. A guy who's been around me, knows what I'm thinking, will communicate with those guys, but be able to spend more time with them and really give them the time that they need. And so felt like that for us moving forward, I'm still going to call plays, be the offensive coordinator, and we'll be in and out of that room. But I'm really going to turn that thing over to Coach Hamden and let him develop those quarterbacks and spend more time with them. Allowed me to hire Jacob Piegler. Jacob is not somebody that I worked with before, but I got a recommendation. And the more we interviewed him, and the more I dug into it, really felt like he could be a great fit for us. Seeing the development that he made from his players, whether it was at Ole Miss, at Cal, or even at Texas State, I felt like his reputation is not only a recruiter, but as a person. So we're really excited to bring Jacob on staff. Feel like he's going to be able to create some new ideas and challenge us in the throw game to continue to improve. So was really excited about that opportunity to add value to our staff, to grow and to challenge our staff to improve. On the defensive side of the ball, DJ Smith has been a tremendous linebackers coach for us, but he's been our best recruiter. So with Coach Woods leaving as our recruiting coordinator, it was an opportunity for us to promote DJ Smith to our recruiting coordinator position and give him ownership in that. And he's really done a really nice job of taking ownership and continue to set the direction for us in recruiting. He'll work alongside Ryan Trishell, our director of player personnel, and Brett Whiteside, our director of on-camp, or our chief recruiting officer, to continue to set the stage in the direction of our recruiting. Had some adjustments in the secondary. In the past, we've had 3 secondary coaches for 5 positions. And then, again, as I'm taking a holistic approach, realizing that we had 3 coaches for 5 positions and 1 coach for 4 didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so, Coach Davis, I thought had done a really nice job in his opportunity to really on-campus interview for the position. But he came to me about needing help and wanting somebody that he had been with and worked with before. He had actually coached him. I had a ton of respect for Kevin. Actually tried to hire him when I went to Appalachian State the first time. And so when I got a chance to just interview him and get him on the phone with Steve and interview, really felt like it would make a lot of sense for us to put 2 coaches in the defensive line. Kevin Peoples will coach the edge. Coach Al will coach the interior guys, and really allow us to focus on those guys to continue to get more production from up front. Then on the back end, we had a couple of adjustments there, and really wanted to again, find what fit us best, and had a relationship with Blake Baker, working with him at Arkansas State and Boise State, and have tracked his career. And so when I knew the need for a safeties coach, with Coach Wilkes being our corners coach, I felt like that was an opportunity to, again, add somebody who has coordinating experience at the collegiate level, who's seen a lot of different things, been in this SEC, been in the ACC, can be a sounding board for Steve and continue to help us improve, and be somebody who can really be a number 2 in that room to help Steve, as we must make improvements on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we did improve in the second half of the season, but by no means are we satisfied with the performances on either side of the ball in relative to terms of production. And so at the end of the day, this was an opportunity for us to improve our staff, not only as coaches, recruiters, but in scheme. And I feel like we've done that. So really excited for those guys to come on board. I'll open up for questions.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, Eli, with Eric Link working with the tight ends now, how are special teams duties going to be broken down? Is that still going to be mostly him, or is it kind of everyone pitching in there?
Well, so it'll always be led by Eric, and Eric will lead the meetings in all four, or really all four units. But DJ's always done field goal block. Coach Johnson's always done field goal, and then everybody who is not a non-coordinator helps with special teams, whether it's in the returners. Coach Looper coaches the returners, whether it was the perimeter guys. Everybody will have a role on it. Coach Baker, Coach Piegler, Coach Peoples. Everybody will have a position that they're coaching on special teams, but Coach Link will be the primary play caller in those schemes.
Lila Bromberg.
With Jacob Piegler, you mentioned kind of the guys he had developed, being able to especially at his previous stops, being able to develop guys like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. Just how does that kind of excite you, having him in that room, especially with the wide receiver talent that you guys do have now, and developing a guy like Luther Burden?
Well, I mean, yeah, Luther obviously is one, but Dominic Lovett, Mookie Cooper, JJ Hester, Chance Looper, Toski Dove, Barrett Bannister, Jamarian Wayne, all these guys, Jaron McKeith and Logan Muckey, all those guys in that room have an opportunity to improve. And I really feel like Jacob can walk in with instant credibility because of what he's been able to prove and do in this past places. But it gives those guys an opportunity to really shine and figure out who they are. I think the thing I'm really excited about is Jacob's mentality and how he goes about coaching that position. And again, we've got to improve. There's not one area of the football team that I think is competing at a high enough level right now. And so that room's got a lot of talent in it. Considering where we walked in to where we're at now, I feel really good about that opportunity for those guys and for us to continue to grow.
Dave Matter.
Eli, by taking quarterbacks off your plate somewhat, what does that allow you to do differently? Or where's that time, where's that energy go towards?
It goes to everything. Yesterday in football school, I sat in the defensive line meeting just taking notes, and allows me to be more hands-on, developing relationships with every player on our team, and just allows the freedom to have more meetings instead of having to rush from this meeting to the quarterback meeting or making sure the quarterbacks are in tutoring and all that stuff. It just takes a little bit off my plate. Allows me to be more flexible in recruiting and also recruiting both boosters and donors and doing all the different things as a head coach. So, it's just kind of like a glass of water. If you stick your hand in it, when you take it out, something will fill it back up. So there's other things that'll fill up my time.
Jack Sobel.
Hey, Eli, how involved
it's not Sobel. It's not Sobel.
It is Sobel.
Oh, I say it wrong.
Yeah, because I swear it was Jack Sobel, but she is adding a consonant. All right, there we go.
All good. But how involved has Coach Wilkes been in restructuring the defensive staff? And what are your thoughts on the job he did as the defense improved down the stretch last year?
Well, I mean, Coach Wilkes and I work hand in hand, and obviously had conversations with him about everything I was thinking and the direction that we were going. And let him, interview all those guys just to make sure he felt like they'd be the right fit. Again, down the stretch, we played much better than we did first part of the season. My evaluation is that their stability's got to override anything right now. Our team needs, I felt like just needed not necessarily stability, but continuity within scheme. So that I felt like as you watch the season and as you self-scout what we were doing, the more our players got comfortable with what we were calling, the better they were performing. And so, that's what we got to do. There's obviously some things in our scheme that we've got to fix. And that's what this offseason is going to be about.
Final coaching question from Gabe.
Yeah, back to kind of your answer to Dave's question about, allocating your time and all that. Everybody who's ever been a head coach says you don't really know everything that's involved until you've gone through it. And now that obviously you're a couple of years in, I mean, is this part of a constant adjustment of figuring out how to allocate everything and where your time is best used?
Yeah, I think so, Gabe. I think it's part of just that self-reflection. I think every year is a little bit different. I think in that COVID year, there wasn't nearly as much outside noise and distractions or things that we were having to do, being on the road recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, all these different things that are coming up. And was still trying to do the very best that I could being in that room. But, again, it was obvious by the way that we played at the end that the quarterback position was not being coached nearly well enough. And that's on me. And so that was on me to fix as the head football coach. It's not everybody can identify problems. The question is how you're going to fix them. Sometimes there's a quick fix. Sometimes there's a fix of, hey, we just need to continually do it better. We got the right process, but the process isn't better. After 2 years, I felt like, maybe we just didn't have the right process with me sitting in that room all the time. And not sitting in some other rooms and not being around the other guys, not spending enough time with those guys because I wasn't always able just to go have a 30-minute meeting with the quarterback, maybe one-on-one about life or something like that, because I was pulled in a different direction. I was in recruiting. I was in evaluation. I was in a defensive third down meeting. So this allows Coach Hamden to really focus in on those guys 24/7.
And we'll shift gears to our Pro Tigers. Coach, if you want to talk a little bit about what you saw from Nick Bolton, and congratulations to Kendall Blanton advancing with the Rams. If you want to speak to those guys.
Yeah, just congratulations to Nick on a heck of a season. Obviously played really well for the Chiefs and was fortunate enough to get to watch him 2 times in person, and really proud of the way he's handling himself as both a player and a person off the field. Obviously, Kendall Blanton, trained here on the off season. There was a couple of times I thought he was working as a recruiting intern with KPs, hanging out in our recruiting offices. And so to see him, again, stick to it and continue just to keep working and have his opportunity come. First career touchdown versus the Bucs, and then had, 5 receptions for 57 yards. And an opportunity to go play in the Super Bowl. Just wishing the best of luck. And, if he wants to give KP a ticket to the Super Bowl, I'd probably be accepted.
Anything NFL related for Coach Drain? All right, y'all.